I would like you to give a massive round of applause to this man as he comes onto stage, Mr. Kirk Pickstone.
Thanks, brother. Good morning, Port Talbot. How are you all? Is anyone there? Is anyone awake? Right. So, what I want to do today, I want you to think about these things. How many times have you felt overlooked? How many times have you looked at successful people and thought, how have they got there? And how many times have you felt trapped? So what I want to talk to you about today is how to become, the music I've walked onto is become a different person. And for those that I've not met yet, my name's Kirk Pickstone, and I'm happy to speak to any of you later on. And what I want to cover today is what you can do and what I've done to become a different person. I believe everyone can do the same sort of thing. And the three areas I want to cover is how you can educate yourself, dyslexia, and then I'm going to finish off with the steps that I do with people and businesses to take them on their journey. And you're probably thinking a couple of things. The first thing you're probably thinking, what's he doing with that stupid bleeding T-shirt on? That's the first thing you're probably thinking. And then you're probably thinking, how can he relate to us? What's he going to tell us? How can he think how we're thinking? Well, let's get the T-shirt out of the way. The T-shirt, I wear the T-shirt because I got fed up of blending in with everybody else. And as I go through my talk, you'll understand why. So I thought, I'm going to stand out because I'm different. We're all different. So why do we be like everybody else? And the second thing, what do I know? How can I relate to you? Well, if I list the things that I currently do, I'd probably agree with you. I'm a radio host, I'm a podcaster, I'm a mentor to businesses, I run 2 successful businesses, and I'm also a columnist for dyslexiamagazine.com. So yeah, what do I know? How can I relate to you? But it's not always been like that. See, I come from humble backgrounds, like a lot of people. I come from a small place, you might have heard of it, Manchester. Well, and back then, I was a butcher, and I worked behind the bar. So for me then, looking at me now, was incomprehensible. How could anyone ever get like that? That's what I used to think. And if I had a graph here of my chart of success, it'd be pretty flat, like that. So I was working behind the bar, I was working in the butcher's shop, and I was pretty much just doing that to stay still. I wasn't progressing. And that made me feel a bit fed up, a bit trapped. And like I said at the start, I looked at people and thought, how have they become successful? So I was pretty much like that till my mid-20s when I got a job in a warehouse in where I lived. And I was working for Kellogg's. And I discovered I was quite good at something. I was quite good at motivating and developing people. And a job came up, and I was I was successful in getting that job as a foreman, supervisor, if you like. Well, I wasn't really successful. No one else wanted the bleeding job. Because the job was £5 a week more. Back then, it probably bought me a packet of fags. And my mates used to say to me, you must be mental, Kurt. Why are you doing that job for £5 a week more? All that responsibility, all that crap you get off the gaffer, why are you doing it? You might as well just be like us. But for me, the money was irrelevant. The money was just a token of the job I was doing. Because then I realised I wanted to do something else. I wanted to become a warehouse manager. So for me to become a warehouse manager from where I come from was a pinnacle to me. I thought, if I can become a warehouse manager, I've done it, I've made it. So what I did in that job, and I've done in every job since and before, was I expanded my circle of influence. And you're probably going, what is it going on about? Well, what I mean by that, if you go to a job and you do the basic, clock in, clock out, just do the bare minimum, or you do every single thing that employer wants you to do, you'll probably stay in that job because you're a perfect employee. But if you break through your circle of influence and you do things that your boss or the customer's looking for, you get noticed. People can't fail to notice what you're doing. And that's how you start to progress. And that's what I've done in every job I've ever been in. So I did roles in stock control, I did dispatch jobs, I did every foreman's job I could do. And in my chart of success, I was starting to climb, and my goal was starting to be a reality. But life has a way of throwing you crap, doesn't it? We've all had crap, and we've all had curveballs that come our way, and this is the first of my 3 curveballs. So the curveball that hit me was, I got made redundant. I got made redundant on New Year's Eve, just before my eldest lad was born. So I was like, How am I going? I didn't even tell my wife at the time. I couldn't even tell her. So I'm going to cope. I'm going to pay the mortgage. What I'm going to do? It's Christmas. I'm never going to get a job at Christmas. But because I'd expanded my circle of influence, the senior managers at Kellogg's knew who I was as a person. And they put me forward for a role within one of their other suppliers. And I took that job. It was less money. It was longer hours. But I thought, well, at least I'm earning. I can start progressing again. And for the next few years, I changed jobs a few times. And then the second of my big curveballs hit me. This was a mega one for me. I find myself at 30, living at my mum and dad's with everything I own in 3 black bags. My manager's broken down. And how does that make you feel? Well, felt pretty crap. I was depressed. I was skint. Not only was I depressed, I was pretty suicidal. The only thing I think that stopped me from taking that step was what it'd do to my family. And I'm so glad I didn't, because I wouldn't be stood here today talking to you guys. And one of the guys I work for said, Kirk, you need to get away. There's an opportunity to go and work in Holland for 4 weeks. I thought, well, that sounds good, doesn't it? Amsterdam, Holland, Rotterdam, I'll do that. So I went for 4 weeks. Now, this is where life sort of starts changing, doesn't it? Because that 4 weeks turned into nearly a year because I was good at what I was doing. I enjoyed being there. And I didn't want to go back to my past. I didn't want to go back to where I lived because there was too many bad memories. And one of the biggest significant things about doing that was one of 2 things. One, I met my wife-to-be, Sandra. We've been married 16 years now. She's phenomenal. And my walk-on music was, I'm a different person. I was lost, but I needed a guide. And that person became my guide. And also, being in that environment, I'd gone from, there's an old saying, if you carry on doing the same things, you get the same results. So I'd gone to a different group of people, different influences. And that's quite significant because that opened opportunities for me. And then for the next 10 years, yes, 10 years, people, it's not a quick journey, this. You know, things take time. People get frustrated. I still get frustrated now on some of the things I'm trying to achieve that are not moving fast enough. So for 10 years, I take every opportunity for training. So I've done things like a CPC, which means I can manage large fleets of vehicles. I've done safety training. I've done things like an internal MBA over this period of time. I worked for loads of different companies and just was hungry for expanding what I could do and knowledge. And I find myself then in a very, very senior role within global businesses. So that dream of becoming a warehouse manager on my chart of success, I'd blasted through it because I was running operations that were £23 million a year, 3 sites, hundreds of staff. And that person I wanted to be, they were working for me. So I'd just gone right past where I ever dreamed of being. And this is the third of my curveballs that hit me. So I'm in a very senior role, 44. I've found something I'm really good at, and I've put lots of effort into it. And I find out I'm dyslexic at 44 because I was getting a lot of trouble in me writing and my communication with my boss and the customer. Something I'd never had to do before. I'd never had to do writing, never had to do a lot of reports because it was all just talking to people and looking at results and motivating them. And that got me to a really low place, really low point. So just like to think, what do you think you'd do at 44 when you find out you're dyslexic and you're in a role? What would you do? Just have a think for that for a second. I'll tell you what I did. I quit my job, I started a business, and I went to university. Just going to get a drink, if you don't mind. So that's my first section about development. And the next section takes me in because I was talking about dyslexia, about being dyslexic. So I've quit my job and I'm going to university. And I did a master's degree in global entrepreneurship. Now, for me, that was just absolutely bonkers because I'm dyslexic, never thought I was intelligent, knew I could do stuff, but I graduated from Coventry University. And I went to university because I wanted to study dyslexia because of the experience I'd gone through. I knew thousands and thousands of people are going through the experience that I'm going through. How can I stop them getting to the point of total despair and this misinformation and misunderstanding? And what I've discovered was 35% of entrepreneurs are dyslexic. And the average number in the UK is about 10 to 15%. So a high proportion of entrepreneurs are dyslexic. And not only that, a high proportion of the prison population is dyslexic. Now, that's not because people at dyslexic are bad people. It's because we don't fit into society the same way. Don't fit into the sausage machine of education or the corporate world. They misunderstand what we're about and what we're doing. I know because I've experienced it. So dyslexics can go one of two ways. They can either become the class clown, that was me, or they can go down another route, because if you've been told all your life, you're stupid, you don't know what you're doing, you're never going to amount to nothing, guess what will happen? You'll go, well, I'll become that person then. So they go down the wrong route. And people have to earn money. So they go and do criminal activity to give them a wage or they'd get if they had a decent job. So I would like to explain dyslexia. I won't go into all the details because it'll make me glaze over as much as it'll make you glaze over. But language is made up of several elements. The way you imagine an image of something, and you also know how that word's spelt and how you say it and how your hand moves to write the actual word. And these are stored in your brain and they come together in like a split second. And this is where it's quite interesting, because if I'm over here in the non-dyslexic mind, I want you to imagine a library. And in the library, you've got books on the shelf and they're all arranged. And that's where your information is in your brain. So in the non-dyslexic mind, when they want to ask for something, so like they want to ask for a pen, they will quickly go in, pull that information out and say, can I have a pen? And if they're really polite, they'll probably say, please. Now this system is really good for organisation, for language, that the general population, can do. And over here, I want you now to imagine a cylinder of information, not that organised system over there, but a cylinder of information. And everything's sloshing around in it. It's chaos. Dyslexics are trying to make sense of the world on a daily basis. They don't remember the language the same. They almost learn language and learn words. They remember the words rather than reading. So in the same scenario, when a dyslexic might ask for a pen, they might ask for a pencil because they get things mixed up. That makes them feel stupid, and the other person that they've asked them thinks, why have you asked for a pencil or a pen, or whichever way you've asked it round? Now that's got major disadvantages for like education and reading and writing and all that, which everyone's aware of. But it's got amazing advantages. Now the advantages it's got is it's very creative. Because all this information is free-flowing, and this is the example I like to use. If in the example of the phone manufacturers like Nokia over here in the old way of thinking, or the very structured way of thinking, are just trying to make a phone that's more robust, that'll last for 6 weeks without charging it. If you're old enough to remember the Nokias, 6410, you can throw it against the wall, it'd bounce off. No 120 quid for a new screen there. Didn't have a screen. So that's great. So over here, Steve Jobs is a dyslexic and goes, you know what? Let's bring a phone out that's not got buttons on. And some of you in the audience probably don't even remember that, phones before the iPhone. Someone's phone's ringing, it's probably mine. Because he's like, actually, let's do it a different way. Let's bring a phone out that's got no buttons on it. It's basically a computer in your pocket. You can be on the internet, with iTunes on it. Phenomenal. That is a revolution in technology. And he's a dyslexic. And I could talk about loads of different famous dyslexics. Just go and research some. And the other way I like to explain dyslexia, if you here use computers, you either use a PC or a Mac, and depending what your preference is, they broadly do the same thing. You can do spreadsheets, you can do Word documents, you can surf the internet, YouTube, whatever you want to do. But fundamentally inside, those two pieces of equipment process, store, and retrieve information totally differently. So when we try and get our PC to talk to a Mac, or we use programs from each machine, they can't communicate. And that's where dyslexics have a problem, because the way they think is differently. And entrepreneurs are the same when they're talking to non-entrepreneurs or non-dyslexics. They don't get it because their mind's thinking totally different. It doesn't mean that we're stupid. It just means that we think differently and process the world differently. And throughout this process, I've got to the point now where before I wasn't confident, and then I become confident. There's no way I'd stand on this stage 10 or 15 years ago and talk to you. It would have been an impossibility. But I can do that now, and some of the other things I do. And so I find that I'm dyslexic, I want to help people, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to get on radio. I'm going to spread my message, get it out to as many people as I can. And you know what it's like, you try and get on radio, so I'm ringing the BBC, I'm sending them emails, I'm knocking on doors, I'm doing whatever I can. No one wants to know you. Unless they want to know you, they don't want to know you. So being a dyslexic, being a bit of an entrepreneur, I go, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make my own radio show. Sod it. I can be on every week. I can talk to whoever I want. I can say what I want. And that's what I did. I set my own radio show up. And I talk about dyslexia, adversity, and business, because I think those three things are related. But not only are they related, if I just spoke about dyslexia on my radio show, only dyslexic could tune in. So that's why I talk about that. Or if you want to check it out, it's Tuesday night, 6:30 on Radio Warwickshire. Bit of a plug, why not, while I'm up here. And it's a podcast as well. So the funny thing happened, though, it's a bit like expanding your circle. You know, I've got to just go and do my own thing. I'll just be as good as I can be at what I'm doing. That's what I need to do, is be as good. Whatever I'm going to do, I'll be the best at that I can do. So about 6 weeks later, after starting my radio show, I'm in the car and I get a phone call. Hello, Kirk. Yeah, hello. It's the BBC. Right, okay. We've been listening to your podcast. We think it's great. Can you come on our show? And I'm like, hang on a minute. 6 weeks ago, you didn't even want to know who I was. So I did. I went on the BBC and radio, BBC Coventry. Brilliant. And my next target is TV, because I want people to know who I am, not because to be, you know, I'm vain or I want to be famous for the sake of being famous, but the more people know who I am, the more people understand my message and the more people I can affect and change. And I probably didn't say it at the start, but I've only come here to speak to one person today. If I can motivate and change one person's perspective of their life and what they're doing now, then I've done my job. And when I was doing this talk and putting it together, I thought, who am I going to talk to? And I'm here to talk to me back in 1982 when I left school. I know a lot of you probably think that's really retro, 1982, but that's when I left school. So I'm here to talk to me, 1982, because I wish I was in the audience listening to me. And that's not me being big-headed. I just know that's the power that we can do. We can affect people, and I want to affect people. And I will get on TV, guarantee it. So that's about dyslexia and a bit more of a journey there. And the last thing I want to talk about, there'll be a bit of audience participation at the end of this, so get ready for that. I'm not going to get you jumping up and doing, cartwheels or anything. What I do, my wife said to me a bit back, she said, you go into all these businesses and you change them and you make them better. What do you do? I went, I'll just go in and make them better. She went, no, what do you do? I says, well, I just go in and I make them better. She said, but what do you do? So I was scratching my head thinking, what do I do? This is me being open and honest with you. So I sat down and I worked out and I thought, that's what I do. I do that, then I do that, then I do that. I developed a system over quite a period of time that I believe really helps. And every business I've worked with, or every individual I've worked with, it helps. And it's 4 steps. And the 4 steps are gaps, boulders. I've got a Mancunian accent, I know. That's a big rock, a boulder. Innovation and owning it. So I can't go into all the details of this, but I've done a blog on it. So if you want some details, get some details off the organiser, Jamie. There's a blog on my website which goes into more detail. You can get that from it. It's not a problem. So the gap. If we were going to go on a journey, say, from here to London, not that you probably want to go to London, but if you want to go to London, you'd have to know where you are currently and where you're going to get to. How are you going to get there? How long is it going to take you? What do you need to get there? So with any person, so for me, as an example, when I'm working in the warehouse, how do I become a warehouse manager? What's the gap from where I was to where I need to get to? What do I need to do? What are the steps I need to do to get there? So once we've understood that, and we don't go rushing off then, because every organisation I've ever worked in, every person I've ever worked with, there's always a boulder. There's either a department or there's an individual in that operation that is comfortable where they are. And why I call it a boulder, if imagine I've put a big boulder in front of those doors at the back, you couldn't get through it, could you? You couldn't get round it. So it stops progression, it stops you moving forward. And with individuals, there'll be boulders stopping you from getting out of your comfort zone and doing what you should be doing. There'll be things stopping you. It'll be like me, why are you doing that job for £5 a week more? There'll be all that in your head. There'll be something stopping you from progressing. So we need to identify that and get rid of the boulders. And then the next thing is innovate. So what I normally do with that is do brainstorm. So it's come up with ideas. What are the ideas that can bridge those gaps, that gap that we've got? What's the things we can do? What's the best way of doing it? And like I said, I can go into more detail about that, but I won't at this moment. So once we've got that, it's great. And Jamie said something at the start about coming and doing something, and I think he says something about self-development. Is it self-development, but shelf development? Yeah, reading books and don't do anything about it. Pinching his thunder now. So if you don't take action when you've been given some information or you've found something you like, if you just ignore it, then nothing's going to change. You're going to stay the same as you was before. So the last bit is owning it. And Steve Jobs, if you've not heard of him, go and search him out. Steve Jobs, no, not Steve Jobs, sorry. Yeah, I messed that up then. Stephen Covey, got Steve Jobs, man. Stephen Covey says, put first things first. Be proactive. What he means by that, if you've got a big event coming up in the future, so let's say Christmas is coming, and you leave it until December before you arrange everything, you're in a pretty bit of a mess. But if you put things in place now, because that event is important, an event, but it's not urgent. So if you put things in place over the coming months, when it gets to the end of the year, it just goes like a breeze. But if you leave it like most men do till December the 24th to go shopping, yeah, he's laughing there. Yeah, you know. I'm the same. I used to be the same. So if you leave it till 20, Amazon's brilliant now, mate. You can just sit at home and just type it in and it just arrives at your door. Not a problem. But if you leave it till the 24th of December, you're in a panic. It's urgent and important. There's nothing left in the shop. All that's left is a crap card. So about being proactive is what you need to do. Now, I've explained that to you. Now, this is the audience participation part, and I can see you all. So I'd like you to close your eyes. It's important. Please close your eyes. Jamie, start robbing them, mate. Start robbing them. Start robbing them. Go on, quick. Right. We're not going to rob you. No one's going to punch you or anything like that. Right. So I want you to think now, where you currently are at this moment in time, and if you can't do this now, I want you to go away this afternoon or this evening and think about it. I want you to imagine the dream that you dream. So for me, it was being a warehouse manager. What does the future look like to you? What are you doing? What does it feel like? Are you smiling? What's it like? You should be able to almost smell and taste the air around you, what it is. What does that feel like to be successful? Or whatever it is. And it doesn't have to be money. It doesn't have to be flash cars. It can just be you being happy. Right. The next bit. So we know where we're going on this journey. So we're going to leave this building now. I'm going to start walking on we're all going to go our separate ways to our different destination. But we come to an alleyway, and this alleyway, there's a massive boulder in it. I'll translate that for you, a rock, big stone in the way. We can't get past it. So what do? Do we stay where we are in that alleyway, or do we go back to where it was before? But you know what that destination's like. You've invented that. You've got it in your head. You've got a clear image. So what I want you to do is I want you to walk up to that boulder now. I want you to put both hands on it. And with all your energy, I want you to start pushing on it. Because this is all your fears, your anxieties, the things that's stopping you from moving forward. And I want you to push that rock till it moves. Until eventually it's rolling out your way and it's gone. And your path is clear. So now we can see the future. And like I said before, my own journey, it took a long time. This is not going to be a quick fix for us. So we know we're going to go a long way now. But we can see the distance now. There's nothing stopping us. But on the way, if any of you are gamers out there, we're going to be picking things up. We're going to be putting them in our bag ready for the future. So what is it we need? Because we've identified we need some training, we need some development, we need to go and do a job, whatever it is, we need a mentor. We're going to pick these things up along the way, and we're going to put them in our bag for when we need them in the future. But while we're on this journey, there's going to be some curveballs going to come and try and knock us off our path. There's people going to try and shove us down dead ends off our journey that we need to get to. But we need to stay focused. We need to put first things first. We need to not get diverted from our destination. And eventually you're going to get to your destination because you know what it's like. You've already imagined your destination. But what you might do is get to that destination and go, do you know what? I've seen another destination. It's even better than this one. And you'll carry on. But you'll have had all those tools, all those experiences to be able to move to the next level. You can now open your eyes. For those that close them, thank you very much. Hope that helped you. So my aim today was to walk on here and get you to think differently than when you sat down. And I hope that's helped some of you. And I hope you go away and try and implement some of those and take what I've said to you. And the key points for me that really helped along the way was going out of my network. So I went to Holland and I went to a different network of people. So if I'd have stayed where I was, I'd have just got the same results, but I went to a different network of people. I took opportunities that weren't based on financial gain. They were based on experience. They were based on bettering myself. I found something I was really good at and focused on it. So you guys might be good at, find out what you're good at, and this is what I always say to the dyslexic. What is it you're good at? It could be anything. It could be music. It could be being a DJ. It could be sports, whatever it is. Focus on that and be really, really good at it. and you can't help but get noticed. And the last thing, which has just gone through now, is having a clear image of the future, what the future looks like. And now I go by the name of the International Dyslexic Superhero. I know it's only a name, but hey, it's better than some of the names that I get called on a frequent basis, isn't it? So I hope that makes sense. I'm open for questions, and I thank you very much for being here this morning, and thank you very much for listening to me. Thanks.